Got it.
Everyone behave now.
Did
It's
you
just
get
setting
it?
up.
Yeah.
I think everybody's just freezing.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Okay, so are we now live? Because all of that was a recorded version of what I just said.
It says here it's live on YouTube and we had to grant permission as well. So I think, yes, I think you were successful.
Okay, I'd like to pass this off for the record. I don't know how I went from I'll see if I can log in once. Okay. Is anyone hearing everything twice?
Nope, I'm not.
Okay, so I'm guessing I have two windows open.
You sound okay to me.
Okay, it's just me then hearing everything twice. Let's see, cancel. Okay, yeah, I'm still getting that feedback, so I need to sort that out. Bear with me for a second here. I don't know what's going to close. Let's get rid of that. Leave meeting. Okay. Okay, any suggestions, anyone, on how to resolve this?
What's the issue?
I'm hearing everybody, I'm hearing myself twice in delay. So I know what I just said, and then there'll be a pause, and then I will hear the recorded version of what I just said.
I'm not
How many,
sure.
how many screens do you have open?
I'm trying to figure that out right now.
You want to do a screen share?
So, okay, I'm gonna,
Okay, Bob's the host now. Does that help maybe?
Uh, do we need to test? See, I can't.
Well, I don't hear her at all.
No, I don't hear me either.
I hear you,
Okay.
but I think she's gone.
Blew the coop. Doug, are you a guest or are you a member now?
I'm ex officio.
Ex officio.
Have we lost Donna?
No, I'm here.
No, you're done. We've lost Helen.
Yeah.
Ellen.
As soon as you took on as host.
That wasn't deliberate, I promise you.
Yeah, well, it's work because now she's not getting double
Not getting anything now. She's gone.
Yeah,
Well,
if
She
you
can-
have her, you could text her and just tell her just to log in through the regular link.
I suppose. I'm not sure how this is all working, but let's try that.
Here she comes again.
Okay.
Bob.
Yeah, good.
Helen, you're muted, but do you hear us okay?
I can hear you now. I did jump out of the call and then came back in.
No, you
Now I'm-
didn't. You were here the whole time.
Oh,
Welcome back.
so in case I've heard myself say it twice, I'm going to make it 3 times now. I don't want this responsibility of organizing meetings, of doing the technical aspect of it.
You're
So
you're way further ahead than I ever could get. So sorry,
Yeah.
Tag, you're it. You're good
No,
there.
well, I'm going to untag myself and I'll be the roadblock. No, in all seriousness, this is, where did I, oh, there we go. Yeah, this is just, not that it's challenging. There's a lot of things going on and, I'm clearly failing in getting these meetings posted, and making them live and all that kind of stuff. So if somebody else has the patience and the time to do that, yeah, I'd love to hear you.
My problem is that I'm, as far as the internet is concerned, I'm technically incompetent in that regard.
Well, I'm guessing you're an engineer. Who are you kidding?
Perhaps
Yeah,
if I might put something up to be helpful.
yes, please.
From my perspective, there are sort of 2 or 3 simple steps. I've never done it, and I'm not saying I'm going to do it for you. But for example, let's sort of roll back, notwithstanding who the secretary is and keeping track of the minutes, etc. When you want to call a meeting, in other words, you've organized amongst yourselves a date and a time. When you want to actually, if you will, kickstart the meeting process, whoever it is would email the clerk, the deputy clerk, and the receptionist. One person only, and they don't need all the chain of emails. Should we have it this date? Cancel that, because that makes it a bit confusing.
Mhm.
The clerk, just so the clerk knows, but in terms of the actual important part, the deputy clerk would actually put your agenda and your minutes on the web page.
Okay.
And then the receptionist, she will block the time and ensure that the municipal YouTube channel is available for that date and time. So
Okay.
that part, okay, that, keep that part very, very simple. And then in the evening of a meeting, and I can go back and I thought I had my notes here, but whoever's going to do the technical stuff, I'm not going to repeat it now, but those 3 little buttons, again, I can get you the 1, 2, 3 bullet points of what you do once
Okay.
you've initiated the meeting and pushed that. Anyway, no, we don't want to get any more complicated this evening than that.
Okay.
From my understanding, that's supposed to make it very, I was almost said simple, one step at a time, and
Mhm.
we're all meeting and it is live and it automatically goes to be stored on the webpage for people that want to listen to it at a later date.
Okay. We
So
can
maybe
try.
maybe we can have an offline conversation after tonight and give you that comfort level from the technical side.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. I won't say struggling, but between the different passwords and then if it kicks me out of, I can't sign out of the Merrickville website Gmail account without signing out of all my accounts, which means I need to go sign into 3 other, and it's just like, okay, you know what? This is not making my day.
We'll try to get it simplified for you. How's that?
Perfect. Okay, I will try one more time then. Since you're offering that olive branch, I will try one more time. But for the record, I'm throwing up the white flag if next time's not any easier and we don't get it out on time.
I think your colleagues are hearing you loud and clear.
Perfect. Okay. So does anyone have the agenda handy so that we can start this meeting?
It's called order.
Yes. Okay. So yes, let's call this meeting to order at 7:44 p.m. And then I'm
Disclosure-
blind after that. So
Disclosure of pecuniary
Sorry.
interest
Oh,
and
perfect.
nature thereof.
Okay.
Just
yeah.
Helen,
Mhm.
are you considered the host right now?
I believe I am. Yes.
So if you go down to share screen, will you click on it and allow everybody to share this,
Right.
more than
Just-
one person, and I'll put the agenda up.
Perfect. Multiple participants can share simultaneously. Perfect. Thank you.
There we go. Everybody see
Okay.
that?
There
Yes.
you go.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're
Well
welcome.
done.
I dare not try to share my screen with all my difficulties already. So, okay. So done call to order, disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof.
Done.
I have none. Mike Severstock.
None.
None, Donna Daw.
None, Helen Kanjar.
None, Tom Belanger.
Okay. And moving on to approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Anyone to second?
May I make a point? I had sent everyone some additional items, and Donna, Helen, you had suggested that we do them under new other business. Is that
Yes.
what we want to proceed?
Yeah, do we want to put those in now or just
Sure.
discuss them? Okay. Secretary is ready for your comments.
Okay, so I had three items to add under business, which I had sent everyone a copy of by email. The first,
When were they sent out, Mike?
yesterday.
Okay.
I was, the three of them are electric vehicle charging station. Second one was job posting for planner, special projects coordinator. And the third was 2022 Virtual Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference. A lot of words. So basically Ontario Conference.
Roma conference.
If I could also add, the Chamber of Commerce, the president of the Chamber of Commerce reached out to me last week and would like to meet with us. So if we can add that to other business as well.
Okay, just one sec.
Sure.
The third was Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference.
I'm cutting and paste, Mike.
Okay, great.
There we go. And fourth is Chamber of Commerce. What was that, Helen? Chamber of Commerce attendance?
Yeah, let's go with that. They want to have a discussion. I told them that I would run that by the committee and see what the next steps forward are.
For your interest, Yves Grandmater, he had mentioned me, he was going to listen in on this website. So he's probably listening to us now.
Okay. All right. So back to approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Tom Belanger will second it.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so approval of the minutes of November 29th, 2021.
Just not to be too much of a pain in the ass, Helen, but you need a vote after the
Oh.
motion and the seconding.
You are not, you are who I rely on for these things. So
Okay.
can we have a vote on that, please?
Severson says
Aye.
aye.
Perfect. There you go.
Okay.
And as amended, yeah.
Okay, and so we're voting on the amended part, right?
Yeah, well, just the approval of the agenda has been voted on, and it's the agenda as amended that you
Okay.
voted on. Okay.
Okay. So then if we're good to move on, approval of minutes of November 29th, 2021.
I'll approve, motion to approve.
Mike Sapp would like to approve the minutes. And I'd just like to add a comment that Donna, you did an amazing job in those minutes, by the way. It was
Don't repeat that ever again.
I
You
thought
did
so
it so
too.
good that
Exactly. No. Thanks, Mike.
Oh, we're putting an official note on here. I like it
Taking notes. I'm hands-free.
for the public record.
Exactly.
Yes, thank you for doing that last time. Those were excellent notes. And Tom, yours are always excellent as well. Okay, so we have perfect. So we're done with the minutes from last time. So
Gotta get a
capital
vote.
vote again. Okay.
Mark Saversnick votes to approve.
Tom Belanger votes to approve.
Donna,
Okay, perfect. My apologies for that. I'm not up on my meeting rules at work. We don't have to follow such formalities. So, Mayor, if anyone ever asks you for meeting protocol lessons, and you decide to host them, please let me know.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to number 5, capital projects wish list. Bob, what do you
Yeah.
got for us?
Well, if some of you can access, I'm going to try and exit full screen here. There we go. So you got to look at the pictures I sent you.
Mhm.
I take it.
Late this afternoon?
Yes. So council has received some very interesting and exciting submissions so far this year. One of them has been the idea of, have any of you been following it in the North Grenville Times at all? The Sons of Martha Cairn restoration.
No,
So I'll give you
we
a
have some
thumbnail.
nods though.
Yes. Harry McLean, who was associated with Merrickville, was the mad millionaire of Merrickville, etc. But Harry McLean, at all of his major construction projects, erected a cairn. And on the cairn were plaques with the inscription of the poem, The Sons of Martha by Rudyard Kipling. And as well on some of his projects, that one of the plaques would contain the names of whoever died on that project. There was such a cairn in Deeks Quarry, just a few miles from here. If you were to go out to the Scotch line on top of the hill, where Merrickville Estates are, if you're familiar where the Scotch line is, head east towards Kempville, and you would go through Deeks Quarry about halfway there. And that's where the remains of one of the cairns is. Back in the not so distant past, the Merrickville Historical Society was very interested in it, and there was a group that were interested in moving the cairn to Merrickville. After much discussion, it was decided that this should not occur, but that the cairn should stay in Deeks Quarry. However, the Eastern Ontario Engineers Group, it's an important anniversary coming up. They are very interested in having a replica of the cairn built here in Merrickville with the brass plaques on it. So that's their request is for the village to permit it to happen, and they're going to raise money for it. Along with that is possibly a bronze sculpture of Harry McLean, life-size, I'm told, life-size sculpture of Harry McLean sitting on a park bench with Rudyard Kipling, two of them in bronze. There is an association between the two of them, between Harry McLean and Rudyard Kipling. Rudyard Kipling, the engineers adopted the poem, The Sons of Martha, sort of as their poem, and then Rudyard Kipling went on to create the ceremony or write the ceremony and whatever needed to be done for the engineers iron ring ceremony as well. So engineers themselves are quite attached to Rudyard Kipling. He and Harry McLean had an association. Harry McLean was the one who commissioned this rings ceremony to be written by Rudyard Kipling. So there is quite a connection between them. And there's an effort on the part of the Eastern Ontario Engineers Society to build this cairn here in Merrickville, and there's been an offer made by I can't remember Lauren's last name, but
Brown.
Lorna Brune, thank you, to construct a sculpture as well. So that's that which is happening right now. The other interesting thing that came to us was from the Chamber of Commerce, and that involves, as was sent to you, installing a Victorian themed lighting program here in the village of lampposts, basically. So there's aluminum lampposts. They look Victorian. They're solar powered, so there's no need to invest in the wiring. And all of the current posts that the chamber has downtown, which have the flower baskets hanging from them, would be replaced. And there'd be a total of 70 of these posts put up around the village in the commercial areas on the north side as well as on the traditional south side. So that's an exciting project that, again, this is something that the Chamber of Commerce is looking for a grant from the province for. There's a grant money out there. So this is being pursued by the Chamber and the village combined. So that's an effort, a joint effort by the Chamber and the village. So other than that, that's pretty much, there was lots of other things that we discussed, of course, including fireworks, etc. But those were the construction projects that are right now in front of the village. And people are looking for funding from various areas of government for these projects. Any questions?
Is this, sorry, Bob, is this the actual image? Is this the correct?
It's a
see
artist's
that?
representation, the Karen image. That's what it's supposed to look like. So obviously that's not a real image. That's not there. But this is what it would look like if they did put it there. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting, pretty exciting idea. Anyway, back to you, Helen.
Okay. So is there anything for this committee to do on that, a way to support, or is there any expectations of us?
I think the main reason for drawing it to your attention is that the Chamber of Commerce is very interested in chatting with the Community Development Advisory Committee. And I'm just trying to give you a heads up on some of the projects that you might be asked to participate in.
Okay.
Okay.
So at this point, it's informational.
That's right. Yeah. This is not an ask. Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or comments on this?
I do. May I ask a question, Bob?
Yeah.
Yep.
Rick Eversnook here. One thing I'm wondering about is there has been a move afoot for bringing a ceremony or an event, a festival about Harry McLean. That's something that's recently come back, and there's been a lot of talk in the village about it. And I'm wondering if you through the municipality have been thinking about maybe actually tying in the building of the cairn and this whole idea of celebrating Harry McLean as a joint thing where it could be put together as a, part of the festival could be, the inaugural opening of the cairn.
It's quite possible, Mike. I haven't heard anything in regards to any sort of a festival or recognition or declaration. Nobody's come to the village about a Harry McLean Day or anything like that. So that could very well come in the future. I do anticipate that if the two proposed projects go ahead, the statue and the cairn, there would definitely be some sort of a municipal ceremony or whatever to promote it. But I haven't heard anything about Harry McLean Days.
And are there any timeframes on either of these projects?
Very very tight timelines in terms of getting the in terms of the streetscaping. As any of you that have ever looked at a grant proposal, or however you describe it, some of them of course require different amounts from the people asking. The ones that are 100% funded are particularly desirable. I suppose you don't have to have a lot of money in the bank, but you seldom get months and months to look at it. So right now there's a lot of work being done, and I know Mike was asking about some other grants possibly that could be available. Right now, I think it's fair to say that the village staff are working on several fronts and have several grants that they're pursuing. And if there's any grant opportunities that do slip through the cracks, it's simply because we don't have the staff to make someone a full-time grants person searching for monies. So right now, there are several projects on the go and they are being pursued actively by staff.
Okay. So these, if the lamppost were to receive funding, the installation date would be this year?
There would be, yes, I believe
Wow.
so from what I've seen. The mayor can correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, once the money, there's always a big rush in these grants, and I've never understood quite why. That the window, the opportunity is very narrow. They don't seem to leave it out there too long, and so everyone's rushing to get the best possible submission in the shortest period of time, get it in before the midnight deadline. And I believe the midnight deadline is tonight. I think it's February 1st, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, gosh, I have so many things
Yeah,
on my plate.
yeah, we've got a lot of deadlines that we're trying to deal with, but this particular one for the street lighting is it's very shortly. If it's not tonight at midnight, it's within the next week. Like they have a
Okay.
very, very limited time. So again, then the period that you go through, the long torturous wait for whether or not you got the money. And then once you get the money, you've got to be prepared to move quickly too, because it's not like you have 2 years to spend it or anything like
Okay.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that helps in understanding any support this committee may give or planning or expectations that anyone would have. I think I was assuming that take the lighting project for example, that if the funding came in and then it would be 2 years before they're all fully installed and operational kind of thing.
I would think by year end, if the funding came in, this could be something to be completed by year end.
Okay.
I could just, sorry,
Yeah.
I just wanted to add something. Go ahead, Robert. When you're finished, I'll just add.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, as far as the Eastern Ontario Engineers Society, as far as their proposal goes for the Harry McLean, I'm not sure the timelines on it, but I believe they're trying to get their ask in as quickly as possible as well. It might even be the same bucket, if you will, or program for grants. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
they'll both be working as quickly as possible.
Okay.
If I could just add in terms of timelines, and it's one thing to meet the deadline to put an application in, and there isn't always a guarantee of how quickly they'll let you know your application was successful. Anyway, so you always park that. Just to think of the Cairn and the statues, just as an example, the Cairn, I think the hope is from the group to utilize stone from actually Deek's quarry. So there's some T's to cross and I's to dot, which is maybe a little more mechanical, depending on the final, if you will, location, because of the proximity and the preferred site at the moment is the village square down by the blockhouse. Parks Canada may have a comment on it. Hopefully not a showstopper, but again, there's the process to go through, just because the blockhouse itself is a National Historic Site, et cetera, et cetera. Going back to the lamppost, and you can see on your screen now the many locations. Part of the process is also what the successful grant is. There's a wee bit of engineering to do to ensure that, to see what may or may not be need to be done at a location of a particular lamppost. As we all know, whether it's sidewalk related or what is beneath the surface of the ground, to make sure that the stones are in a good, safe location. Et cetera, et cetera. So all those things take a wee bit of time, but I think once you get through those technical things, the actual installation, from what I've seen from the proposals, the presentations, I'll bravely say it's fairly simplistic. We'll call it that soft engineering to ensure that they're in the best place within 2 or 3 feet of an ideal location, and then safety, security, et cetera, that kind of thing. So
Okay.
there you go.
Okay, good. Okay, so lots to take in on that. And Bob, while you have the floor, do you have an update on the arena proposal, the roof for the ice for the rink?
No, I haven't heard anything back other than it doesn't look like we've won on that one. It doesn't look like we're going to get in on that one, but we're certain there's to be something in the future. We'll have to just keep plugging away. And it's kind of, I don't know if there's a break in reality with the people giving grants as well, but in speaking with people, in fact, our own CAO put some effort into it, put some time in, and looked at and got some quotes actually for putting a roof on a rink, and $500,000 wouldn't do it.
Really?
Yeah, the lowest. How would you got for a bare bones roof on that rink? You're looking at over $800,000.
Okay.
Which isn't surprising, really, when you consider it costs you $500,000 to build a bungalow.
So is it the wrong time to consider that, given the inflated prices of everything and the supply demands and all that stuff? Is this something that's, if we wait 2 years, we pay 500,000 and we move forward then?
I have no idea, but the mayor's waving his hand. Perhaps
Okay.
he'd like to.
Yeah.
weigh
Sorry.
in.
Yes. Sorry.
That's all right. And as Bob said, that's for a roof kind of thing. I think it would be awesome if this committee, as a project, as opposed to asking questions, what's going on, which is good to be knowledgeable. What would that REIT project be? What would it entail? Would it include, building a new change room and washrooms? Those. I'm trying to think back. Bob might be able to have a lady by the name of artist by the name of Brenda Carter donated that cinder block change room rink house back in the early 1990s, if not the 1980s. If you were listening to the council meeting, the most recent one at the beginning, I made a comment on the passing of Lynn Birchall, who was involved in our back in the day as a recreational advisory committee, or sorry, recreational board. I'm not sure. Doesn't matter. The idea of a covered rink. I mean, what would it entail? Would we put piping in that maybe in the future it might be artificial? I don't know. But a roof that's such that it would become a year-round facility. A theater, expanded makers market opportunities, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
But anyway, and then you figure out, okay, grant money or not, $500,000, $1. How might we pay for it? How might the municipality set aside specific money over the course of whether it's 1 or 2 or even 3 budget cycles, but also setting up the fundraising? Would there be corporate fundraising? Would there be spaghetti dinner fundraising? I think this is something, should the committee want to, would be seen as a great value to start off. What's the concept? How big do we want to be? How small do we want to be of a quote unquote rink project, as opposed to suddenly, there's a new grant application and it closes in 4 weeks. What are we submitting?
Exactly.
We want a roof.
Now,
someone may come along and say, well, put a Quonset roof on it. That's don't fit what we want, right? But what is it we want? So
we have, as a committee, discussed that. We discussed that several months ago, and I think that's something, if I recall correctly, that's something we all wanted to get behind. We thought we could get behind in this. That would be a very useful project for this committee. Do we want to address that right now as a committee, whether we take the mayor's suggestion and make it official that we will work on that, or do we save that for next meeting? What's our step here?
I have a hand raised here.
Yep.
Chair. I would think, I don't know what we can do as a committee, but I'm not saying we can't do anything, but I'm just wondering, where would we access, or where would the town access funds for some sort of feasibility study, some sort of business plan, to develop some sort of clear vision on this project, so that when funding was to come available, we could go, boom, here's our plan, here's our business plan, this is what our recent estimates say it would cost, and this is what we want to achieve. I mean, how can the town, or how can someone at this point in time take that project and get to that stage? I don't think we're capable of doing that without some sort of little bit of funding to do that.
Yeah, well, and that might be, if I might, the kind of thing that and again, I'm not saying that this committee will create the fundraising committees, et cetera, but identifying that, here's the value of, we'll say, the rink project. And from your perspective, saying it could be this big, small, medium, large, if you like, in scale, and then say, but to make it saleable, whether it's seeking grants or saleable, whether it's corporate sponsorship, there would be value in having a feasibility study done. So in other words, identifying aspects of this kind of project, and some of the things might be, if you came forward with from the concept and then a recommendation, and then that comes to council can say, hey, we have the own money, or staff can identify the kinds of a feasibility study that needs to be done and see if there's any funding for that.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyone else? Yeah, Mike?
We did have a discussion at the last meeting about this, and Tom, you had mentioned when you're talking about concepts for the building and what it could do, I think, Tom, you had mentioned that up in Normpire, is it, where you had come across a building that was similar, and that you had an idea of what that was like, and you were really impressed with that design. So it could maybe something you could use for a concept.
Oh yeah, there's some really really efficient, effective, beam and post models out there, used up north where we lived before, in terms of for coverings over rinks. But what the mayor is suggesting is even more exciting, in the sense that us developing some sort of vision and concept for the expansion of, whether it be the dressing rooms, whether it be adding of some sort of little spaces, plus making it multi-seasonal in the sense of, for the makers market, other activities, I think is a brilliant idea. It's certainly a lot cheaper than trying to flog the idea of building a new arena or community space or something of that nature.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
can't get
Donna?
I can't, sorry, I can't get the hand up feature on my, I'm
No,
trying
no,
to do
you're-
dual screen on a laptop here.
I've learned to watch for the hands now.
We did discuss at the last meeting, and I think where it was left, and I was just flicking back through the minutes, is that we were going to do a survey to the residents to find out what they wanted. And there was two things: that Bob was going to ask the council for council's wish list and bring it back to us. And I do remember we were discussing the rink. And I think it was, is that what the municipal residences really want? So we didn't want to go down a path and then find out that it was just a small portion of the residents that were interested in monies being spent to this project. So I guess I have 2 points. Bob, did you ask council for their wish list? And maybe we should start with a survey of the residents, and they're fairly easy to do via Survey Monkey, if I'm not mistaken. There was a survey done a little while ago about another topic. So
Yeah, I think
maybe that would be the motion. Maybe that should be the ask to start. What do the residents want?
Yeah, from my own perspective, raising awareness, start with an article in the 2 local papers that we have, but we'd go to, if you want, go to council. I don't think councillors themselves would have any better or worse ideas than we have, but in terms of getting permission from council to move forward and survey the residents and see what they would support, would be I think a good motion. So certainly I'll take that up and approach council. We'll put out a mail out to council and see what their feelings are on it, and go from
Do we
there.
have to craft a motion for the purpose of this meeting for that?
I think just basically asking me to get direction from council for you would be sufficient. I don't think it has to go as a formal ask.
Okay.
It can go in let's see how it, whether it pops
Okay.
We'll send out the email and we'll see what kind of a response we get. But this would be a simple ask from the CDAC for council's direction in how to proceed with the rink project from here.
Mhm.
And that
Okay.
kind of ties in from last meeting as well, as that you were going to come back to us. So, okay.
Yes, Mike?
Just in parallel with maybe doing a survey and some of the other things, one of the things that I've been looking into recently was a lot of the federal grants that are out there. And this actually is something that is actually funded by the government big time. They really are stressing funds for recreation, for activities outside, for that whole get yourself participation type thing.
Mhm.
That's something that there's a number of different grants for under a number of different industries, by the way, and different divisions of government. So it's something that in parallel we could be looking at the funding at the same time, and basically, come up with here's what's possibly out there, and they might give us an idea of one of the revenue streams.
I've been involved very briefly with looking into a Trillium grant once. Yeah, this ticks a lot of boxes in terms of what will get support, either provincially or federally or a combination of, but it does tick a lot of boxes. Recreation, if you can hook seniors in there and have seniors Tai Chi lessons in the summer underneath that roof, there's only a couple more things you'll need, but anything to do with youth, recreation, seniors, First Nations,
Rural community.
rural community, physical activity. Yeah, I think we certainly have a lot of boxes that we can tick on any ask from the government.
Okay. I do, I see a lot of places, a lot of different avenues that this committee can support this initiative. Everything from helping to build the vision to sourcing some ideas on fundraising. And it's off the top of my head, a great community initiative where a lot of groups can get behind this. A lot of individuals could get behind this if it's if it's done properly, and everything from that initial buy-in from the residents and what it may how it may add value to their lives and stuff like that. So I think that's something this committee could really make an impact on. So I'm personally thinking it's a good idea for us to look at, but I don't know how everyone else feels on that.
I definitely think it would be a great project.
The roof, the roof project in general, you're asking, you're looking for feedback on whether we would support it?
Yeah, the roof project for the rink and all that involves, right? Yeah.
I think clearly that it could be an interesting project, provided we do the next steps properly.
Mhm.
and ensure we've I think Donna's suggestion of making sure that we have wide support before we put much sweat and effort into it is wise.
Exactly.
And then come up with a kind of a plan afterwards, and once we know that it would be embraced, then we can put more effort into what the next steps would be.
Agreed.
Okay, so just if I can jump in, so moving forward, I'll approach council to see if council will endorse the CDAC committee moving forward with public consultations and finding direction on the rink project. Does that sum it up all right?
Yep.
Okay, good. My to-do list.
Could I add to that? Would we not want to be working in tandem with maybe the recreation committee, because it might fall under their purview as well?
I think if we can get our teeth into this, we can drag other committees in. But
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, but I was hoping if we could get some forward momentum, we could pick up some other.
Perfect.
Okay.
And if I might just add to that, and it might not be tasking the committee to do the survey any more than the Recreational Advisory Committee. It might be the municipality do that, and with the right wording in the in the survey, you know, it's all encompassing, you know, whether it's, I mean, economic development is community development, community enhancement, you know, recreation is Lemon shows, you know, they're hand in glove. So
Correct.
we can cross the T and dot the I as to who might do the actual survey and what the verbiage might be in it.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted on record that there's other committees that would probably have a vested interest in
Indeed.
big projects like this.
Yes. All right, you know, just so we don't lose sight, you know, our agricultural advisory committee. I mean, you know, what a phenomenal place for farmers market.
Yeah.
You know?
I have been to the farmer's market in the summer, and even at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's scorching hot out there in their past locations. So a covered pavilion would definitely be appreciated, I'm sure, by more than a few people.
Even on a rainy day, doesn't have to be a sunny day.
Yes, very true. I forgot about that.
Well,
Or
and
the
if I
cool fall
might,
days.
Not to digress too far, but you know, when we do have our summer, what is it, the summer camp program for children, they want to be outside as much as possible, but there are some days that it's not that they need to be inside the community center for air conditioning, or because, but maybe because of inclement weather, but it could also be just, you know, the UV rays, and they can still be outside, but under a covered rink roof, you know, so it just goes on and on and on.
And I think,
you know, the layers of benefit.
I think moving forward with that survey, that kind of context for a greater vision, you know, when we first started talking about this and it was a cover on the rink, and it was like, okay, but not everybody uses the rink, and it's, you know, seasonal and all that kind of stuff. But the more we talk about it, the greater the vision this is for this and the multi-purpose. And I think that in getting the community's acceptance and getting people to start thinking about this and moving them towards being on board with this idea, that context that we provide, or whoever is tasked with doing that survey, the context around the question is going to be key on this. So hopefully some creative writers get behind that.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So Bob, was there anything else on your update list? You're on mute.
I've been warned about that. At the county level, I gather that costs you a few bucks to get caught trying to speak on mute. Anyway, no, I have nothing more to add from the, I'm probably forgetting something, but we've had some very positive council meetings recently, and some interesting, really interesting projects coming forward. So
okay, perfect.
That's about it.
And thank you, Bob. Mr. Mayor, was there anything else? You looked like you're heading out?
No, we're good.
Oh, okay.
This is great. I think this is, you know, it's one of the huge values of an advisory committee such as this one, you know, getting it behind a project and seeing what you can do for council / the municipality. And I think this is a significant opportunity.
Okay, I agree. I think this has been a very useful discussion, and has got my thought process going on a few places that we can help out. Okay, back to the agenda there, Tom. I guess if we're ready to go, if there's nothing else on those comments.
Next on the agenda is invitation of new EDO Stacy Lloyd to CDAC.
Okay, so Bob, do you have any updates on that? I think we had left it that you would inquire whether she was interested in coming in to speak with us.
Well, right now, Stacy is no longer the economic development officer per se. She's wearing a few hats right at the moment, but she's in planning more than anything else. The contract is being finished out that we had under, but Stacy's carrying the mayor can again perhaps fill in a little more than that, but she's her move is more into the planning division right now. So in terms of Mayor Struthers, do you have anything to add on that? On Stacey's?
Yes, actually, somebody recalled it was, I think it was under the RED program to have for a period of time, an economic development officer with a number of deliverables under that program. And anyway, that goes back a few years. Stacey's now, is part of the municipality, and I think it's, if I have the right title, Community Development Officer, I do believe is the title. So while involved in some aspects of economic development, and I'll say doing a great job in terms of our e-blasts we've been doing for the roughly 150 businesses in the last 2 years during COVID, ensuring people knew about the assist programs and so on, but also on that on the planning envelope side that Bob mentioned. It's with the retiring of our former chief building official, Randy Wilkinson, a lot of in-house things needed to be done, and Tracy is carrying those. Notwithstanding that, I'm not sure what the thinking was behind of inviting her, but her boss is the director of economic development. She was, the title was manager of economic development, but it's Doug Robertson. If you want to ask if I guess it would be what do you want? You have questions or just have a conversation? People's vision of economic development. I think that you want to reach out to Doug. That he may be amenable to do that, depending on the. Remember, it's an evening meeting. Staff put in long days as it is. But
Okay.
at any rate, that's a wee bit of the picture that Stacey's not a quote unquote economic development officer.
I think what we were looking at is we're making a lot of assumptions about what Stacey is working on and how we may be able to help her out and where we can add value and all that kind of stuff. So we thought, okay, you know what, let's get her in and speak with her and find out directly from her how we might be able to assist her. So whether knowing that context, whether it's still Stacey we should speak with or whether we should talk to Doug, maybe you can help us out on that. And but that's what the thinking was, is like, okay, let's hear it directly from the individual responsible for those files, what they're working on, how we can support.
Okay.
So
we can pass that on to Bob and or myself with Mr. Robertson. Yeah.
Okay. That's basically I see you, Mike. Yeah, so that's it. Is, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, that is basically why we wanted to talk to Stacey, just to get aligned. And
yep.
Okay. Yeah, Mike.
I think what we thought of was the fact that we were kind of looking at what exactly our committee was going to do, and we were looking for some guidance on how we could support the work that was happening already, as well as some guidelines on where our focus should be. And we're kind of hoping that she could help us with that direction, if you like.
Yeah, and it'd probably be better from Doug, if at all, because it's putting the right content. Your advisory to the municipality. By the time, if let's say there was a project that Stacey was assigned to, at that point, we don't need any advice, if you will, from you. That project goes forward. However, you take something like the rink. Let's say the conversation had started, and we want to move forward with it. We'd be coming to you saying, okay, how can you help us? Whether it's the social marketing of the concept, you get into the nitty gritty. So having a conversation about how the system works, and a lot of the time it's the timing of when something is happening. In the rink, for example, it's when it's all done, and 10 years from now, no, hopefully it's less than that. We can all look back and say, thank goodness, a committee like this sat down and had a lot of prescriptive and slow and steady thinking about the concept, the design, the steps that should be looked at and or potentially taken to make it successful at the end of the day. What the community wanted, its value, how we paid for it, how we fundraised for it, etc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so if you can get back to us or let Bob know if Doug would be able to come in and speak with us and kind of just address those things, our burning curiosity, how we can help.
Have a soft conversation. Yeah, put it in that
Yeah.
framework.
Yeah, definitely a conversation. That's what we're looking at. We're not looking to put him on the hot seat or anything like that. Definitely a friendly conversation.
Great.
Perfect. Okay, Tom, next item, please.
Municipal news update, which I think we pretty much got from Bob, unless there's other about
that the-
town stuff.
Is that the one that had the Baldachin Inn on it
Well,
as a sub point?
I think yeah, it was. The Baldecan was on there that I put on there, but I think I don't have it there anymore.
Okay.
It was my item. It was more of a an inquiry as to what was going on and if it was going to be opening again and whatnot. And I don't know if it's really relevant to our committee.
No, it's just in terms of news, I can't really give you much news on the Baldecan other than
Fair enough.
what you see on the door when you walk by. He's got 3 outstanding orders against the property right now. So Ministry of Labor is involved, and hopefully Dave Ellis will be able to satisfy them, and he can get reopened.
So I actually, I noted that on the agenda, and I thought that was an interesting thing to discuss. In addition to the short-term impact of how long those businesses will be inconvenienced, there's a longer-term impact because, or question, and what if the repair bill exceeds Mr. Ellis's budget and that building then becomes vacant? What is the impact on the greater village of having a substantial piece of real estate vacant or closed down, and then how long until a new buyer comes in and disrepair and all that kind of stuff? So any discussions or any updates on that front or speculation?
Can I jump in here? That's a
Yeah.
private piece of property, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I don't think it's got anything to do with this committee at this moment in time.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion.
Okay. Yeah. And let me just be clear. I'm not looking for I understand what you're saying. I'm not looking for any personal information. I'm just, from a planning perspective and a community development perspective, I'm just looking at it strictly from a theoretical perspective.
Yeah, but that's a speculation, and we could
Okay.
go down 10 million rabbit holes about what if, and again, it hasn't happened, and it's not. Again, it goes back to, it's still a private piece of property.
Okay.
The council will not, maybe I'm speaking out of turn. I've got people on here, but I don't particularly think it's a topic for this committee, and I'll stop right there.
Okay.
On reflection, I concurred with that as well. I think it's not really appropriate at this time.
Okay.
I regret adding it, and I do retract it.
Well, as humans, we're all curious, but I'm sure if you go down to the coffee shop and stand outside tomorrow when it's warm, you can get 5 or 6 different opinions on what's going on. But
Okay.
but in terms of cold hard facts, there's 3 pieces of paper on the front door of the Baldecan.
Okay. And we'll leave it at that. Again, my line of questioning was simply from a community development impact and nothing personal. But yes, we will leave it as that. There's 3 pieces of paper on the door with all the information that we need right now.
So,
okay.
Unless there's anything other municipal news, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I don't know if the mayor or Bob had any other municipal news update for our committee.
Nothing more to add.
Good. The next item is other business. And
Okay.
the first one there is the electric vehicle charging station.
Okay, and I just want to do a quick time check. It's 8:33, so we have 4 items under new business, and then we wrap it up, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
So-
so Mike Severstock, I'll speak to to the first three items under the other business. The first one was the electric charging stations for right now. I'm actually linked into some government sites whenever they have new projects and new funding. And the government actually, the federal government's been spending a lot of money on what they call a federal government zero emission vehicle infrastructure program. And basically that program is in the works right now. Matter of fact, the first segment of that is just completed. And in March, they're going to be announcing all of the new electric power stations that they're going to fund. And typically right now, they're along the major corridors of the 401. They call it the IV 0 program, something like that. But what's interesting, and the reason why I brought it up now, is because the second phase of that program is about to kick in. And they've indicated that spring of 2022 is they're going to open it up again. And now it's not going to be just on the high traffic areas. Now it's going to be any municipality, any person, any personal area that's a public area that could be used by the public for charging stations. They're going to open it up. And so I wanted to bring it up. What it works is it's a 50% participation program where you can basically fund it, half of it through the government. What they're actually looking at is what they call a level 2 connection, which is there's two groups. Level 2, which is just a plug-in, and then there's also a fast charger stream, and both of them have different funding. But basically, the first one is funded up to about $5,000 per connector, and the second one is funded up to $15,000 per charger. So I only bring it up that I'm thinking that this is something that might be really an economic benefit to our community to have a charging station. The fact that the government is about to open it up to this new funding, which would maybe allow us through the municipality to apply and get some funding for it. I just bring out the fact that it's opening and that we should be aware of it. And I'm thinking it's a project that we should support. And I just wanted to bring it forward to the committee and see, is that something you think we should look into?
Would that be a motion to council to investigate, Mike? Is that
I think it's
because of the funding and because it's a 50% split? Like, we would be making a recommendation to council to at least investigate?
I think if we are in agreement that it's a worthy project, I would suggest that it would be something that's worth bringing forward as a motion, primarily because of the fact that it doesn't open till the spring. So it's kind of like we can get ready for it. And as the mayor had mentioned, that we have to look at the funding that's available and how much resources we have, something we can look at and prepare for. And typically what happens with these things is they open them and then you have so long to apply, and by the time you figure it out, it's gone. I'm just giving everyone a heads up that it's there. It's something maybe I believe we should look into. And I think if we made a motion, it'd be worthwhile.
So if we are in agreement, is that what we do then? We take a motion to cancel up, Bob? Is that how that works?
Could I just maybe jump in to see how it works? So part of it is not just knowing how does the grant aspect work and the funding, et cetera, but how does it work? Is that from the committee's point of view, is that something there would be a value at this time kind of thing? And where would it be, et cetera? Because the first thing you're going to end up doing is staff is going to have to do a whole lot of research, like, okay, and so, okay, it's 5,000, 15,000, where will our share come from? Where's the best location for it to be? Who's going to pay for the hydro, et cetera, et cetera. So that might be something a little more look into this committee could do. What the benefits are? Hey, we've got a station. I don't want to say there's a downside, but ensure that there isn't a downside, I guess, the way you word it that way.
Well, I don't want to speak for Mike, but I think his point is, we know it's coming in the spring. Now is a good time to be initiating should we make a recommendation to council to allocate resources to making sure that there's awareness, and then the feasibility study and part of the grant and everything would kick in? As Mike, maybe I'm speaking for you, but that's what I thought.
So at this point, I'd just like to put it out there, the fact that, in my opinion, something that I think would be worthwhile would be an economic benefit. I think to be able to have fast chargers for people who come to visit, tourism, people driving through, whatever, I think is something would be positive. And I would vote for it. And I just wanted to know what everyone else in the committee thought.
I would kind of think that our value on this is we ask the council to task us with looking at the feasibility of it. So touching on what the mayor said, we'd also, it's one thing to pursue the grant, but who can actually do the installation of the stations, and will that be a problem in us being able to actually put this in and in the time required and stuff like that? So there might be some homework to be done in advance, and then or at least do some basic research for council, and then go back to council and say, look, here's an idea, this is what we've explored for you, this is what we know to this point based on what we know as of this day. Yes, it's something that that you should put some time and effort into in requesting or trying to get that grant or not, kind of thing. Maybe that's where our value add is right now, because it does sound like an interesting project. And in terms of value add, I'm thinking, yeah, for all those people coming from Kingston or Toronto or Ottawa or anything like that, who will be coming more and more with electric vehicles, they'll need a recharging place. So it makes sense. And being known as a greener community, great, we can leverage all of that kind of stuff. But at this point, to go out and say, look at only the grant side and where the money would be coming from without understanding whether we could actually physically get them installed in the time that the grant is available, that's the more critical part to look at, in my 2 cents.
Often those grants, once they're being processed, are public property. Is it possible perhaps to see what a grant looked like from the first round to steer us so that we're not flying all over the place?
Yeah.
Actually, oh, sorry, Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, Don, I was just gonna comment. I'm involved in my day-to-day work in a development of a 3-story affordable housing project, and we look very seriously at this option of installing electric vehicle charging stations on our property. Not as a what 2 reasons why. One, it clearly is electric vehicles are going to become the norm more and more in the future, and you know, when you're doing residential developments, you need to be mindful, or you need to make sure you at least have the voltage capacity to be able to, at some point in time, install these charging stations, whether, you know, to meet the need that is going to, looking at it from, you know, I clearly spelled out to my staff and everyone involved, we're not going to be a supplier, or this isn't a commercial activity. This would be a user payer kind of exercise, and it can be done on private and public property. So it's not necessarily, it isn't really restricted, but there is a lot of, I don't know how to put it. It really is in its infancy for being developed by smaller entities. How would I put it that? And quite frankly, in our case, it was a little bit overwhelming for us to even consider installing at this point in time. However, we are getting the quote to make sure we have the capacity to do so in the future.
Okay, very interesting. That cost recovery part, or who is paying, is
yeah.
very interesting, and that's something that council would, and that in itself is a recommendation to council. If you don't already have a policy on this, yeah, it's coming down the pipeline, and you should put that on the books to address. Yeah, Mike.
I just think at this point, what I'm really thinking of is that, as a minimum, we should at least agree amongst ourselves that this is a project that's worth pursuing or not. And that's really the first step. And, Tom's comment about the fact public areas and are thinking of putting in these charging stations. That's what this second phase of this program is about. So the funding is it's not absolutely there because it's not there yet, but that's the way we're headed. And so I think the funding down the road will be there. And as far as your comment, Donna, about do we have the technology to do it? Right now, Hydro One is actually installing all these things on the 401. So they actually have contractors who do this. So that's not an issue. So I think at this point, I just really thinking, something we want to pursue or not?
Yes, Donna?
I'll make a motion I'm trying to think to support what Mike is recommending, because I think we need to make it official. I think this is something that could benefit the community for some time. So I'd like to make a motion to continue investigating, pursuing. I'm not sure what the right, somebody help me out here.
Here we are, I'm here. The CDAC advises council to consider investigating the community benefits of initiating an electric vehicle charging stations.
Utilizing upcoming federal grants or something. So they're not.
Well,
that made it the second part. Right.
Yeah, I see where you're going. And earlier somebody mentioned a municipal policy. So perhaps the best way to start this ball rolling would be to suggest that the municipality elucidate a policy towards electric charging stations, whether they're going to leave it entirely in the hands of the private enterprise, or does the municipality see a role for the municipality in this? As in, I guess I have no idea about these things. I don't know if is it a 20-minute charge, or do you need a parking space so that the person can park their vehicle and walk away from it for half an hour, or how does this stuff work?
Excellent questions. Yep. No idea. No idea. I imagine there's a variety of options, and maybe that's something to consider too. It's like, okay, well, if you stop in for lunch, the municipality will cover the cost of the charge.
Now, I'm really opposed to using municipal money. If you can afford a Tesla, you can afford to charge it yourself, as far as I'm concerned. And quite frankly, if you're too cheap to charge your vehicle, you're not going to buy lunch while you're here anyway. So,
okay, so good point. So all things to consider. No. That's excellent. I think there's so much to have this conversation about. So which we're not going to solve today in the next 14 minutes. So back to Donna's point and getting something on paper. And so are we looking to ask council to task us to investigate this, or are we telling council this is something that they should look at, and then next steps are decided by council on whether we get involved or not?
Well, we can advise.
Sorry, go ahead, Donna.
But can we maybe get some verbiage and take it to a vote just to keep things?
If I could help me with some verbiage, that the committee is just give me a second.
Keen.
There's an opportunity, whether it's because not just because there's some funding that may be available in the next while, before getting too deep in the water, that we're asking council, or saying to council, give us some direction. We would like to look into how it might work in our community. And I guess if we leave it as broadly as that, then you can look at it into all the various machinations that have been touched on just briefly in the last few minutes.
So I have wording for this.
Okay.
Proposition to council for consideration. The CDAC advises council to consider investigating the community benefits of initiating a policy for electric vehicle charging stations in our community, period. Is that, Bob, does that meet the council approval?
I certainly think we can bring that to council, and council would probably turn around and say that'd be a great thing for the community development advisory committee to investigate. So we can either, the CDAC can either investigate this without being urged to, or can send a recommendation to council and have it returned to them as a request from council for a CDAC to explore this issue.
The problem there with this is investigating. So I mean, when you said something about initiating a policy, so to explain, doesn't the initiating a policy happen after an investigation? Or
well,
a,
it's just
a review?
Yeah, but it'd be sort of like asking what's our policy on, pick a topic. And if we don't have one, will we develop one? So we'd go before the policy would be constructed, we would need as much information as possible. And that's where we would go to our committee and ask that our committee that brought this to us, give us the information that we might require to create a policy.
Okay.
So I think it's going to come back to, I think it's a great idea. And I must confess, I'm just totally ignorant of electric vehicles in terms of and it appears that most of us tonight really don't have any answers as to how you pay for it or who pays for it or where we put it or how long it takes. So that'd be a great project for the CDAC to take on and then bring the information back to council.
So,
possibly.
Chair, then perhaps what the action item is under this item is to get a volunteer to look into this item and prepare a little report to present back to our council so that we can then share with council.
So we want to go that route, provide council with some information and a recommendation based on that, a recommendation to further explore.
That's what I'm hearing from.
Okay.
How we should
yes, Mike?
Well, I think the very first part of that motion should be the fact that our committee endorses fast charging electric car stations as a benefit to the community. And we would like the council to come up with a policy which addresses it.
I'd like to, I don't think there's any need for us to say whether we endorse as a committee or anything else like that. Let's stick to the facts and not our just leave it as we want to explore whether this is a good thing for the community or not, or would be beneficial to the community. We don't need personal statements of how we feel about these things in our statements, which is how I read what your first statement is.
Yeah. Personal endorsements aside, if I can just jump back in for a second, the purpose of the committees isn't to task council with a job, it's to do things for council.
Okay.
On these subjects. So Mike, your suggestion that council should do all this, it's not really beneficial to council to have a committee that tasks them with a lot of different jobs. If the committee comes to council with a completed task, says we've looked into this, or if you want to inform council that you're looking into it and you're willing to do the legwork, then there'd be a benefit to it. But just tasking us with the job, that'd be like me just calling the CAO and saying, hey, do this.
It doesn't work that way. What? Okay.
Work that way.
So we've got 9 minutes. Bob, your point is well taken. So we need to phrase this resolution as an action on our part to council. So what's that going to be? Back to you, Tom.
Sorry, I don't think we need, having talked this out, I don't think we need a resolution now. I personally think it's simply a decision on CDAC whether we want to take this issue and someone wants to volunteer to investigate this more so that we then can get to the point of a recommendation to council.
Okay.
That's what I think I'm hearing.
I'd be prepared to do that.
You have a volunteer.
I'll second that.
Now, do we want just one person on this, or what are we expecting out of Mike out of this? That you're going to, do we task Mike with some things that we want to know?
Well, why don't we wait and see back with? I mean, this isn't going to happen in 3 months anyway. This is a fairly long-term initiative. So maybe, I mean, Mike has probably done a little bit of legwork anyway. And why don't we wait to see what he comes back with when we've got the time to review and assess and discuss what he comes back with?
I think it's a two-pronged attack. I think I can provide a lot of the technical details and produce some of the links to the information. But I think Bob has a good point, and that the second prong of this attack should be for council to come up with a policy that says, yes, they're even willing to look at this. Now, I think that'd be a good thing. If we need to do all the work in advance and not knowing that it's ever going to even be looked at because they have absolutely no, we don't want to get involved with that. Well, then there's no use doing it. So it has to be two prongs in parallel, I believe. And we get the answer for both at the same time.
Okay. So that's on my to-do list then, would be to put it to council in one way or another that the CDAC committee is interested in exploring EV charging stations for the municipality, if the municipality is prepared to, if the municipality is interested in looking at this program. Is
Okay.
that, would that do? Okay, I'll get that on my to-do list.
Okay, so Bob will ask council about interest in electric vehicle charging stations.
Yeah.
And Mike is going to do some preliminary research to share with us. And then we're going to go from there.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. We're
Um,
getting the hang of this.
okay,
Yeah.
Chair, can I suggest we defer the other items? Because I have a hard start and stop in 3 minutes.
Okay, if I could just, yes, but can I sneak in the item about CDAC? Sorry, about the Chamber of Commerce. They want to speak with us and share their initiatives with us and want to know what we're doing. Should I just invite Robin, who's the president of the Chamber, into our next meeting? Do we have an interest in having her come speak with us?
I say no. They are a business community. I say no, I don't want to, in the essence of time. I
Okay,
think we talked about this 1 or 2 meetings ago as
Okay.
well.
I keep getting caught in the crossfire with people approaching me or approaching somebody from the committee and then coming to me and saying, oh, they want to talk to the committee and they have this project. And it's like, okay, it's not my place to decide. And there's transparency that needs to happen here, which is why I'm bringing this to
Yeah,
the table.
I think we talked about it was 1 or 2 meetings ago that it came up, and
Yeah,
that's my opinion. And if
if I
the majority
can-
of the committee says yes, then obviously yes, but
Okay.
if sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but if it could help a wee bit, if somebody approaches you, it's the committees are set up to be advisory to the council, at council's direction. So if there is, and I'll leave it at that. So I'm not sure how. I don't want to do verbiage to show how the chamber can be involved. The chamber has approached it, great successful project we're working on with the lamps. However, that whether you want to call that a one-off or not, the municipal council is in governance for the municipality. You are involved not in the governance, but when we task you with something to provide us some advice on. So
Okay, so she should be redirected to council, and then council can say, yes, please meet with CDAC.
Well,
I
if I could jump in, Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to cut you off. I think that if this committee can move forward with, like I've got the approach council for the direction on the rink, this is project number 1. Number 2, inviting Doug Robertson in for a chat. Number 3, the electric vehicle charging station. If we can move forward with these projects and get some real results, I think that would be a great move for this committee and would be
A lot of work.
solid work, as opposed to taking on, I respect what the Chamber of Commerce is doing. They need bodies, they need volunteers. I think if this committee is prepared to take on the work that they laid out tonight, you've got enough on your plate right now. With all due respect to the Chamber of Commerce, I really, as I say, I respect what they're doing, but they could eat up a lot of your time too. Let's do a good job of what we're attempting to do right now. That'd be my suggestion. Does that work for everybody else?
I
yeah.
agree.
Okay. Mike, quickly, because Tom has to sign off in 2 minutes, and he's our secretary.
Right. The other 2 items, by the way, are really quick. So may I talk to them just for a second? The second one was job posting that was recently posted in the Grenville Times for the planner. And the only thing I want to ask, just to make you guys aware of it, that there was a job that was posted, But following our discussion that we've had, I'm wondering if that person could be the person who actually looks at these government grants. Because we mentioned there's no one who does that. And I'm wondering if this new position could do that.
If you're asking me, I'm just telling you that all of our staff are taxed to the max right now, and they're filling in positions that have to be filled that are vacant now. In terms of a new hire just for grants research, I don't believe that's in the stage, but we can certainly check with Doug Robertson. I'll ask. Okay.
Possibly that new person could do that. So
Yeah.
the second thing was the virtual Ontario Municipal Conference. That conference was held on January 23rd and 25th. And I'm just wondering if in fact we had someone who went to that conference. Because what it was about the new Ontario government initiative for housing.
And before you go any further, in the interest of time, Mayor Struthers, you were in on that. Go for it.
Yes, I was. It's a municipal conference of 2 days, and it was not just on housing. It was on many subjects. On the point of housing, there was a provincial housing, and I can't remember what it was. I believe it was the week before, and the mayors that were invited were from big cities. It was not for lower tier municipalities. There was a lot of talk over the course of the 2-day conference about the province wanting to have more housing built and changing aspects of the Planning Act to expedite housing development. It still comes down to it takes time, and all the steps will have to be gone through. Perhaps another day, in the interests of the time on this meeting. But there is the I'm going to forget the tiny homes, and the other one is the small suites. Again, substance follows process. The county actually amended its official plan just recently to allow, I'm going to say, suites. We're rushing through this. I didn't bring any paper with me to speak any more strategically. But once the county amends an official plan, then there's the appeal period that has to go through. Then it comes down to municipalities and to look at either potentially having to amend their own official plan or look at their comprehensive zoning bylaws to see how those may or may not work in your particular community. That's really quick. A huge amount of talk of late, federally, provincially, and some of the municipalities are around us, that we need more housing. But yes, you need housing that is affordable, not just affordable housing. So nothing new came out of the conference. A lot of talk, a lot of sincerity in that we need more housing, depending where you are. It's not just about necessarily build more houses for the sake of houses. It's building houses where people need the housing and at a price they can afford.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are at 9:01.
Oh.
And in interest of everyone's time. So thank you everyone for your time tonight. We have our marching orders. Our next meeting is February 21st at 7:30 p.m. We will make sure that the agenda and everything gets out in proper time and that we're live again. So Tom, we need a motion to close this meeting, I believe.
Donna.
Yep.
Second.
Right on, Don.
I'm looking at the clock and I know Tom's got to go.
I was wondering one thing. We already talked about the website and about getting the our meetings on it. So is it something that we can get, Bob, you can maybe get the municipality to go and actually put our meetings onto the website that we've already done, and the meeting minutes that have already been done?
It's all a case of timing, but yes, once the minutes have been approved, they'll go up, and the existing minutes will go up. And in terms of meetings to come, posting them ahead of time, it's dependent on us getting that information to staff in time for them to put it up as well. So we'll do.
Okay.
But anyway,
we'll figure this out by the time the pandemic's over.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So okay.
Call the vote.
Yep. Call the vote for adjournment.
Quick.
Okay. So we have a first and a second vote on. Okay, perfect. Mike and Donna. And Tom.
Donna and Tom moved the motion to adjourn.
Perfect. Okay, closing this meeting at 9:02 p.m.
All those in favor? All those in favor?
For Pete. all those in favor?
Remember, adjournment motions are not debatable.
There you go.
Okay, so we're
Bye,
good.
everybody.
Good work, guys. That's
Thank
great.
you,
Good luck.
everyone. See you
Great
in a
meeting.
month.
Nice to see
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye now.